because the so-called alleged accident took place on 18th August 45. Announcement was made on 21st August by a private paper, Domei, from Japan. And that was not a government announcement. Nowhere there was a government announcement. And after that, British was a bit suspicious about it. They were also taking it with a pinch of salt. And finally, on 5th September, after searching mostly all the Southeast Asian countries and the places where the Japanese used to have their agents, Hikari Kikana, they found that most of the papers were destroyed or being taken away by the Japanese. Only in Bangkok, one single paper they could discover, the Britishers, they could discover a single note on 5th September, they announced that there is a paper, the plane took off such and such time, met with an accident. He came with the body came out with a practically half burnt, and Shidei and others were died inside the plane there on the spot. His companion Habibur Rahman had less burn, and they had been taken to the Moment Hospital. And then on 23rd August in that paper it is written that convey the news to the Indian community. Look at, on the 18th the accident took place, and the news will be communicated only according to that instruction on 23rd. Because there is a reason, later on I can say about it, that then lastly on 28th August, the last is that Habibur Rahman's condition is improving. This particular paper been discovered by the British agents in Bangkok. On that basis, British intelligence officer Colonel Figgis, who was in Tokyo, in the British High Commission in Tokyo, gave order to two experts, Finnes and Davis, to go and search both in Bangkok and in Taiwan. But till today, we do not get the full length report of these two investigators. They are still somehow or other, they had not been brought before the public. One line was there by these Finney and Davis, that it is a deception plan. So that made Figgis to make a very false report, and that false report came out later on, somewhere in September. After that, in between this dilemma, they were not very sure and certain, so they were searching everywhere. Everywhere people were talking about Subhash Chandra Bose. In Rangoon, Britishers are getting the information that he is very much alive. He is in another land. He will come back with a proper help of another country, not mentioning Soviet Union. This went on up to November 45. Then 31st December 45, the first page of National Herald, the first column with a bold letter announced that Bose is in Russia. So that made the British absolutely mad. So they were thinking what to do immediately. Pravda, the paper of Soviet Union, answered back that yes, there is a news holding that this Bose is in Russia, but India is a country with all sorts of imaginary things, and they imagine too many things and too many informations they serve. But we are sure and certain, wherever he may be, but he is not within our territory. That was the answer of Pravda, 7th January 1946. Later on again, Gandhi, Sharad Bose and other people, they are all suspecting from there on February and March that we do not know that exactly, and Gandhi didn't believe. Sharad Bose was having also a doubt there that brother is thinking that something is wrong somewhere. So this went on for a long time. That's why the Burns, there are Jenkins, who was in charge of the CSDIC, the Southeast Asia command that side, he wrote that make him permanently dead. The letter comes with that make Subhash Parman, now our number one enemy, make him permanently dead. Hurriedly, Mountbatten gave a second thought that since we are doubtful about his death, so better to close the chapter. Before that, we must grab his wealth. So 1946 March, Mountbatten is requesting Nehru to leave for Singapore to meet the Malayan governor and to decide about the wealth of INA. Hurriedly, Mountbatten gave a second thought that since we are doubtful about his death, so better to close the chapter. Before that, we must grab his wealth. So 1946 March, Mountbatten is requesting Nehru to leave for Singapore to meet the Malayan governor and to decide about the wealth of INA. INA's wealth is a very complicated problem, because money always creates problem everywhere. So Nehru in 1946 March been asked by Mountbatten to leave for Singapore and to meet the Malayan governor and to sort out this problem. And at the same time, when 1946 March Nehru reached Singapore, similarly that time Mountbatten was in Australia. So he also came, and three of them, they decided about this wealth of INA. INA's wealth is not only the people who donated whatever things, bangles and all, that is not the thing. One has to remember the rubber plantation, the tin, the big industries, the chettiers, they all donated each and everything in the name of INA. And recently, there is some people are discovering and getting some news that 400 acres of land that belong to INA. So it's not a matter of 1 acre or 2 acre like that. So if it comes true in the near future, so one can understand that how much wealth INA used to get, because out of emotions, people used to donate like anything to Subhash, Netaji. While I was discussing with Hugh Toy, the MI5 member in England, at his residence, so he said that, what do you find about it? I said, yes, there are notes with the Britishers regarding this wealth, INA's wealth. He said, I can quote and unquote Hugh Toy, that the total wealth that time, according to your currency, will be 72,000 crores. All of a sudden he said, can you tell me that what happened to the wealth of INA, Indian National Army? I said, how am I to know? You were there in Southeast Asia, you were commanding the CSDIC, this way, without not my knowledge. Listen to me. During that time, according to your currency, 72,000 crores. So this was the link and the clue. I got it from him. But while he came to see me off at the bus stop, he said, "Remember one thing, I told you about the wealth, but don't mention anybody, because I don't like that it should be public." And out of emotion and out of, all of a sudden I found you a real scholar of Subhash Chandra Bose. You have done quite a lot of research on it because you were answering all my questions, and I came out with the truth. But all the time Hugh Toy was telling the other people that I know that lady is mad, Subhash Chandra Bose is dead and gone. She's a mad lady, she's hunting some all sorts of wrong things. I said, all right. Then my brother-in-law one day invited me to Oxfordshire. He used to live in Oxfordshire. I went to their house, and after the lunch he said that, did you put a word to Hugh Toy, Colonel Toy? I said, you see, to put the trouble is that he's not believing me and he's not entertaining me and he doesn't want to receive me. He said, all right, I will call him up. So in front of me he called him up and said that, you see, I think from the other side he was telling that she's mad, because my brother-in-law telling that, no, she's not mad. She's sitting in front of me, she had lunch with me, and I think that you can talk to her. Even if you don't want to receive her, you can talk to her over the phone. So after 45 minutes, this type of conversation, the other side agreed and said, all right, tomorrow is Monday. Ask her to call me up 11 o'clock in the morning. That time I'm free to receive calls. I left for London, and the next day, without fail and without anything, dot 11, I called him up. He picked up the phone. I said, this is Dr. Purubi Roy. Yes, it's Dr. Roy. I'm sorry to say that Subhash Chandra Bose is dead and gone. So I said, sir, Colonel, I'm not asking about you, that whether Subhash Chandra Bose is dead and gone. I wanted to hand over a few papers to you. What paper? I said, the papers, shall I tell you? Do you have time? Yes, I have got time. You tell me what you wanted to tell me. I said, in 1941, when Bose was in Kabul and was trying to leave for Soviet Union and Germany, and he's hanging around to German and Soviet embassy, some Hugh Toy young officer from the British side was sitting in Herat. You must be knowing Herat. Yes. I said, some young officer was sitting there and watching the whole story. Total silence. Where did you find this fact? I said, from the Russian archives. Do you know Russian? I said, of course, Russian is my bread. And those papers, I said, papers are written in Russian. Then how am I to know? I said, so many scholars are there because I don't have time to translate. But I will do it. I just wanted to hand over. Are you free in coming Sunday? I said, that is my last Sunday in London. I shall be leaving for Moscow. No, last Sunday, coming Sunday, 11 o'clock. You will wait for me in such and such bus stop. I will come and I collect you. From there you will call me up. You take this bus. It went on blah, blah, blah. That how I have to reach Whitley. So I thought that at least I could convince him that I'm not mad. I'm proceeding to Hugh Toy. So I went there, called him up with a big open hood, something like former the Studi type car. He came. Yes, Dr. Roy. He was so, thankful for these papers and all. He took me to his house. Wife was really very sick with these all sorts of arthritis and all sorts of different types of arthritis he was suffering, Betty. But somehow or other she liked me. Anyway, she couldn't speak also. Her vocal cord also failed. So he said, you will have lunch and all. I just kept quiet. I thought that I will hand over the papers and go. Then he said, what is written there? I said, all your activities. He was taken aback that if he asked me anything more, then I'm going to disclose everything. He said, all right, keep them there. Then we had lunch and all, and then he asked me for some sort of this, either champagne or something like that. I said, no, Rombi. I said, no, I don't take all these things. And he was pacing up and down, perambulating and telling all the stories of the Second World War. And then he said, by the way, you come with me. I would like to show my cottage. This is an old cottage, Roman cottage of those days, 200 years, 300 years old. So he took me in a small chamber with a safe, old safe, which is this wall safe, and once you take it out with 10 or 5 keys, and then you will find the drawers are there. So he pulled the drawers. When he pulled the drawers, files after files, files after files, I was just looking at it and I was just proceeding there. No, Dr. Roy, don't go there. These are the files all about Subhash Chandra Bose. I won't allow to touch it, I won't allow you to see it. I just wanted to show you that how much files I am having in my house in the safe. I just said, all right, a day will come then one you have to part with those things. Everybody has to part with the property. Then from England I went to Moscow after a week, after meeting Hugh Toy and all, and I was there for 3 months in Moscow. August, September, October, 3 months in 1996. And early August I left for Moscow. So Moscow, my friends, especially the journalists, that time everybody was working in the KGB archive to get some information, not only about Subhash Chandra Bose, but all the information regarding Indian other activities, because my friend was a editor of the journal Asia and Africa Today. So his interest on both African problems and Indian problems. Then he came across the letters of Subhash Chandra Bose written to Molotov and written to Stalin, and which he wanted to hand over through Yaqub Malik, the then ambassador to Tokyo. Those letters he could discover and unravel, and many more other information. He started writing series of articles, the Journal of Asia and Africa Today. So that way Turadjev was caught rather, because our ambassador informed our Ministry of External Affairs, that time Ronin Sen was the ambassador, informed the Ministry Mia of India that some Belsky, one Russian, they always used to have some spy in the embassy who is working both in the institute and there, informed me that Turadjev has got so many informations about Subhash Chandra Bose and he is publishing. So from here the report went to Moscow that asked him to stop it. Some way or other, please manage to stop it. But it couldn't be stopped. That time the other chancellor, Ajay Malhotra, later on he also became the ambassador. He went and requested Turadjev. Turadjev said no. Ultimately the conspiracy went up to Narasimha Rao, Pranab Mukherjee and all, and that way they sacked Turadjev from his post for doing so. So we used to sit and think that what could be done. He said, only for you I have lost the job, and after the disintegration also, the financial condition of the Russian people was not very encouraging and not very happy. I also felt very bad that because of Subhash Chandra Bose. He said, don't worry, we have to find some way and let me see if they can allow you to enter. But by that time, already the mandate came from the government of India that don't allow her. anywhere. So it's all right if you don't allow me there. I know how to work in the archives, and I used to work in the GARF, that is State Archive, where you can get lot of materials about Subhash Chandra Bose, the TAS agency, the information service. They always used to watch the activities of Subhash, last days, even last days. So that helped me quite a lot on that side, but I was not allowed physically to enter KGB archive. But my friend Kolesnikov, Alexander Kolesnikov, who was that time the Warsaw Pact Major General, but after the dissolution of this Warsaw Pact, he was working in the archives only. He said, "Don't worry, Purvi, since I am a Major General, I am allowed to enter the military secret archive, GRU, which is called in abbreviation. I will go there and I will try to find out." So from there only he called me up. I was in Moscow. In the evening he called me up and said, lots of papers and materials, you can't imagine. I said, "Kolesnikov, would you mind to do me a favor?" He said, "What?" "I just want only one document, his existence of Subhash Chandra Bose in erstwhile Soviet Union after the alleged plane crash." He said, "Yes, I will do it." I said, "You do one thing, you just get the number, who are the people are there, and what was the text, nothing else. Otherwise we won't be able to continue, because you have to carry everything in mind, and they won't allow you pen and pencil or paper, nothing. With 2 police officers you have to go for this top secret section." So he did. Stalin with his cabinet members, Yakub Malik, Vyshinsky, Molotov and others, discussing that where to keep Chandra Bose, October 1946. In the meantime, this is the time in 96 October, a delegation came from India, headed by Sangma. That time he was in the Lok Sabha, and Sushma Swaraj was there, and Speaker is the head of the delegation, and along with him Chitta Vasu, the All India Forward Bloc General Secretary, along with him Jayanturai, who was the then Member of Parliament, and few others. So I informed Ashok Ghosh here and Chitta Babu that I can at least give you this much of document and this much of evidence, and this is a paper, original paper from GRU archive, which will solve the problem of this confusion and the dispute and the whatever you can see about this. Chitta Babu was very happy to meet Kolesnikov. The most important thing of the discovery of this paper about Subhash's stay in 1946 in Soviet Union, erstwhile USSR, that was the most, important proof which Kolesnikov handed over to Chitta Basu. I left for India, and after some days he also said that I am coming back and I will meet you and I will keep in touch with you. So I was under impression that definitely that forward bloc, the leadership, the All India Secretary, they will do something for the people, something for the nation, something for the country. Nothing was done. It was October already past. Whole November I was waiting for Chitta Babu's call. Time to time I was also calling him to find out. Answer was that he is busy in the meeting, or he is having his lunch, or he is taking rest, or he has gone some other place. This was the answer. Then the whole November gone. December there was a meeting in Maidan. All were there, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Jyoti Babu and all. It's in December. So Chitta Babu from there all of a sudden called me up and said that I'm coming to you. He came to my place and I immediately asked him that what happened. There's no answer. Well, no, Purabi, I was about to tell you. I thought that must call you up and give you the information. I had a long discussion with Jyoti Babu. Jyoti Babu said that first is Vietnam, then China, then we will think about Russia. This was Jyoti Babu's answer. So I just looked at him. I said that then this problem will never be solved, because I feel that you don't have any intention to carry out with this news, this bit of news. There it ended. But that was the year 96. Within few months, in 97 itself, Chittubabu was coming after making a meeting in Gaya. He took Rajdhani, I think, after that. On his way, he asked for some food, some lunch and all. The bearer came and gave what is the bearer's version, which we got it in the paper and all. And later on, when he came to collect the plates and all, found him lying, practically, he doesn't know whether dead or what, lying on the compartment. So immediately at Jhajha, the railway officers and police, they took out and informed forward block. The interesting part that neither the railway police nor any post-mortem, nothing was done. And here, hurriedly, being the General Secretary of All India Forward Bloc, immediately cremation was done so that people might not get any information, and the comrades also, they won't get any inquiries or any suspicion about it. And after that, that paper, that piece of paper given by Kolesnikov could not be found anywhere, neither at his Barashat residence, nor at his what it calls Rakabganj residence in Delhi. That was lost. Since then, the leadership in Forward Bloc, they never tried to answer in a precise manner, in a clear manner. So this is the fate and destiny of the leader. Papers were kept for such a long time because there was not a proper researcher to go through it. Because there was not a proper research was done, and there was no hankering for that also. And the scholars also, when they are working in the state archives, I'm talking about Bengal, they have gone through it, but they didn't find them to fit in well, because the topic is not known to the readers. When Tushar Talukdar, the then CP of Bengal, he opened the police archive. There he came across these 63 files of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So as a CP, he had to take the permission of the Chief Minister. So after going through those files, first person, this is Tushar Talukdar, who went through all these files. So he made an appointment with Chief Minister Buddhadev Bhattacharya, and after the office hour at 5:30 in the evening, he went to meet Buddhadev Bhattacharya there at the writers. When he entered the room, he found that, of course, the Chief Minister is sitting, and that time the education policy maker was the Finance Minister's twin brother, Atish Dasgupta. I must say that he is more than a criminal. He wanted to destroy everything, the Bengal's whatever legacy, Bengal's culture, everything, giving all the time objection to do research on any field area. And especially Subhash Chandra Bose, he thought his personal property. So when Tushar Talukdar wanted to find out their consent, he was also shocked when he entered the room and he found the Chief Minister is not alone. He is sitting with another person. That is usually not done, normal process. Anyway, both of them said that this will be difficult for us and we think better not to touch this subject. Better these files remain where they are. This is the history, this is the story behind it. But Mamata, the present Chief Minister, she took it up and she is that way very bold enough to take the whole responsibility to declassify these files. But the files have got a history before that. Because the comrades, right from the beginning, they never liked that Netaji should come back. Because there is a very pertinent question everybody asked, that if he was in the custody of Stalin, so why he was not allowed to send him back? I always answer, whom to send him back? The first was Somnath Lahiri in 1946. For 4 or 5 days he went to Soviet Union. Can you imagine after the Second World War, a comrade is getting visa and everything to put his foot on Soviet Union in Moscow. Anyway, after coming back, the comrades here in Calcutta asked him. He just smiled. He never answered. Comrades asked him about Subhash Chandra Bose. Then the next person is Bhupesh Gupta. Bhupesh Gupta's letter shows, which is in print now in my book, that most probably the leader was asking to take him back. The answer is, nowadays the name of Subhash is waning and about forward bloc nobody knows. And we are not going to take the responsibility of it. This was the answer of comrade. Now the third one is that Dange, Rajeshwar Rao, Basab Punaya, Ajay Ghosh, they met in 1952 Stalin. And the records show that Stalin is discussing with Dange about Subhash Chandra Bose. So many things had happened, but history remains quiet. Subhash, after completing his ICS, that princely offer, he just refused to accept it and wrote back to his father that I'm not going to continue this anymore, though I've passed it, I stood forth, but I want to go back and to serve my country and to work for my mother's independence. So with that decision, he came back on 1921, met Gandhi in Bombay, which he didn't like at all. I mean, the conversation which took place was not much encouraging to him. Then he came to Calcutta and met Chittaranjan Das and decided to work as a disciple of Chittaranjan Das. He got the invitation. There was an invitation for the 4th Congress which was holding in Soviet Union. He, son of Chittaranjan Das and some other young youth, but somehow or other Chittaranjan Das went there to attend the 4th Congress, but Subhash was left out. But anyway, he carried on his work, and in the meantime, the year 1922-23, Abani Mukherjee, the member of Comintern, Indian Communist, came to Calcutta at the request of Petrov, the head of that circle of Comintern, that go and have a look, that we have to find out like-minded people with whom we can work together for India's independence. Avani came straight to Chittaranjan Das, but Das showed Subhash, the young soldier, who would be the great help to Avani. Avani came for a week to stay in Calcutta, and then the other cities were planned, but he left out all the plans and stayed back here for 11 months and interacted. They had exchange of views with Subhash Chandra Bose. And then after going back, the report which we discovered or unraveled in the Comintern archive, where Obuni is concluding his report that I found a real soldier who will be of our great help, and that is the right-hand man of Chittaranjan Das, who is Subhash Chandra Bose. That was the report given by Obuni to Petrov and to all the members of the Comintern. So since then, Subhash was giving the lead to amongst the Indian socialist or Indian people who will be on the side, will be taking the side of the Soviet Union and will take the help of Soviet Union to liberate the motherland. Corroborating public record office with the Russian archives as well as few documents from Japanese archives, all together, everywhere I found that Subhash's ultimate intention was to go to Russia. Because in the beginning also, I just want to add once more, that in the beginning when he left for Afghanistan, Kabul, everybody knew that Subhash is leaving for Russia. But Russia couldn't give him the shelter. They gave only the transit visa. While transit visa, after that when he reached Germany, from there he wrote a letter of thanks to Molotov, to Russia. That is one of the very major evidence that he was so, careful about it. And when he entered Germany, the German Indian section, the German government's Indian section, was giving a note that be careful of this man, he's a Soviet agent. So I'm not giving all the details, but if we consider all these things, and if we find that all the requests Subhash started making, and lastly, when he came to know that they weren't able to win, something was going wrong in the northeast border. So he went to Japan, met the ambassador there, Russian Soviet ambassador Yakov Mali, and handed over his request to Stalin that now he needs the final help from them, because they have helped many countries who are struggling. And lastly, that is the new findings, what I find, that we knew that from Singapore and from Bangkok, when he was traveling, his last destination was Turin. But now the new things are revealing the fact that his last destination was Saigon. He stayed back overnight there, and from Saigon, the flight took place straight to Manchuria, the border of Soviet Union. So it's the thing he was having all through a connection with Soviet Union, and so lastly he wanted to get the help from the Soviet leaders. Stalin gave him definitely shelter, and one thing is Somnath Lahiri, given the detailed story of Somnath Babu. For 4 days he went there in 1946. Then 1951 the letter of Bhupesh Gupta, and then on 52 the delegation went there, Dange, Rajeshwar Rao, Basapunaya, Ajay Ghosh. There Stalin had a long talk with Dange about Subhash Chandra Bose. And those details were kept with his daughter, Dange's daughter, who lives in Moscow. She never wanted to publish it or to disclose it. Later on, when all these researches were coming out, then she wrote, she took it, she tape recorded it, so that from there she published it, but with editing. A lot of editing is there. Anyway, I had a long talk with Shalja. She said, yes, of course, Dange was very close to Subhash, and the Stalin and Dange's conversation gives some hint that both of them knew that he was in Stalin's custody. Later on, the delegation of Aruna Asaf Ali, and a very big delegation, went the Communist Party, 1952, very big one, who went to China and all. So Aruna Asaf Ali was the only person being selected on that among the delegates, that she is going to meet the leader. But Stalin, before meeting her, he requested Balabushevich and Yakov, the two Indologists, that try to find out exactly what she wants. Then she said that we would like to, I would like to talk with him about our Communist Party and all. Then Stalin told them next day that tell her that Communist Party of India should stay away from Nehru, because Communist Party of India has been totally converted Nehru's stooge. So one can make it out that how much Stalin used to hate Nehru, and why he never allowed, after our independence, our first Prime Minister of independent India to visit erstwhile Soviet Union and to negotiate with their leader. Though Nehru sent his sister there as an ambassador, but that also Stalin never bothered to meet her also, and wanted to, I mean, indirectly he gave an order so that she can go back. So this was the relation of Nehru-Stalin. And on 53, after Stalin's death, then when Khrushchev and Bulganin came to power, 1954 was organizing the thing, and 55 is the year when they are exchanging their friendship. Nehru went there after 28 years, and Khrushchev and Bulganin came to visit India. Everything was said and done, but 56 is the turning point of the Soviet Communist Party's history. That was the 20th Congress de-Stalinization. And 56 is in India, when Nehru stood in the parliament and said that Subhash Chandra Bose died in the plane crash. And after that, British was a bit suspicious about it. They were also taking it with a pinch of salt. Later on again, Gandhi, Sharad Bose and other people, they are all suspecting from there on February and March that we do not know that exactly, and Gandhi didn't believe. Sharad Bose was having also a doubt there that brother is thinking that something is wrong somewhere. So this went on for a long time. And 56 is in India, when Nehru stood in the parliament and said that Subhash Chandra Bose died in the plane crash, and making that Shanawaz committee. There's a big riddle is there, of course.
11 years
after that. And today Ashish Roy is taking out one paper which Nehru took the help of a Japanese doctor to give the report that he died in that plane crash. And this doctor actually gave the report in 1946 July. After that also another doctor, they made another report. All you find in my book, and search for Netaji, the death, all riddles are there, enigma. And that enigma is there that 1946 July, one doctor is giving the report. 1946 October, another doctor is giving report. And the July doctor been asked by Nehru to write the third report, which Ashish Roy is trying to convince people. So this enigma will go on, and if the people are not going to see in an academic way and to find out the real fact. The thing is, right from the beginning, the leaders of Congress Party, as well as the political leaders in Delhi who are holding the government and all, they became very much cautious about it. Of course, because only Satyanarayan Sinha, he was the Nehru's interpreter when the delegation came in 1955 to India first, after our independence. He was very fluent in Russian, and he gave some hints that Subhash's end came there. But somehow or other Nehru could stop him, and Nehru could send him back to America. And the whole thing slowly, I mean, absolutely eradicated, and nobody bothered about it. Because there was a time after the visit of Khrushchev and Bulganin and Nehru's visit. But since the Indo-Soviet friendship flourished and the things have turned a new era, as a result, this was been absolutely sidelined. But only one person, that is Satyanarayana Sena, later on he wrote a book also, but he did not get that much of importance, and there it ended. It was given by our Satyanarayana Sena, that Siberian jail. But maybe because he crossed Omsk, after Omsk might be few days, might be there. But so far my knowledge goes on the attitude of Stalin and the communist leaders and all, I feel that he was having a home arrest in Moscow. That is my feeling. But I haven't come across any papers on it. Shahnawaz committee was formed by Nehru, giving all the false reports and informations there. And one of the members of the committee was his brother, Subhash Chandra Bose's brother, Suresh Bose, who gave the note of dissent, and with that dissension note, he didn't want to participate anymore. He backed out from the whole thing. Even then, government accepted that report, public rejected. After the public rejection, it was going on the doubts, not only amongst the mass, but amongst the Congress people also, congressmen, as well as the RSS people. They were also in a double mind that this is not right. So during the time of his daughter Indira Gandhi, again the Khosla Commission was formed, headed by a judge. Khosla tried his best and he was allowed to visit Taiwan. And after visiting Taiwan, he came to the conclusion that the alleged plane crash never took place. But somehow or other, with a very shrewd politics of our late Mrs. Gandhi, he had to write that the plane crash took place and he died in that accident. Again, what happened? Government accepted and public rejected. Team of people who were working for the Indo-Russian relations, they started unraveling, discovering and revealing and accessing many more documents on Subhash Chandra Bose. Doubt came and the Indian government took it up. And they found that most of the people died. So better to stay with the original primary source of documents. So the Mukherjee Commission was formed on the basis of primary sources of documents, taking it out from the different archives of the world, corroborating them with the British, with the Russian with the Japanese with the USA, America, like that. Mukherjee Commission went to England when this Levin, the Chancellor, answered that their papers will be declassified only 2021. He appeared before the commission in London when Mukherjee Commission went there in 2001 or 2, I'm forgetting. And when Mukherjee asked him, he answered all the questions, yes, I was there and all. After that, the question part was over, so Mukherjee was about to conclude it. Joy said that, sir, can I tell you one thing, one sentence? Mukherjee said, of course, why not, Colonel? if you have anything to say, please. He said, please note that I knew that lady is a snake in the basket. So one day I told Pavitra Babu that I will tell you the story, but don't write it. But he is a journalist and he knows that he will get the popularity and all. He wrote it, but I gave him one condition. I said that one condition is there, that you have to mention the address of Hugh Toy, of Whitley. Anybody has got any query, any doubts, one can write to him. Toy immediately sent fax to me, that I asked you not to disclose it and not to mention it and why you did it. So then I immediately wrote him back, sent a fax immediately, within half an hour I sent. I said, if I made any mistake or if it is a wrong information which I have circulated, I am requesting you give your rejoinder. I am going to publish it in all the papers of India, in every language, starting from Bengali, English, Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, Telugu, whatever language we have, that much I have got the courage. He just called me up that time instead of fax. He said, all right, Dr. Roy, it's all right, but I don't want to continue this argument anymore. Anyhow, mistake is mistake. All right, goodbye. And he handed the receiver. Toy said that I knew that she's a snake in the basket. Mukherjee accepted it and then he said, expunged. He came back to Calcutta and called me and said, of course, I asked my typist to write it down. And then I said expunged. And he got very much irritated after his Mukherjee's comment that expunged. Mukherjee Commission went to Japan, and there the first doctor was no more. Second doctor Yushumi appeared before the commission, and he sent a death certificate to me mentioning that Subhash Chandra Bose died, but he signed, and after his signature, below his signature, year mentioned 1988. So Mukherjee challenged there. After that, we were supposed to visit Russia. So all the deponents and all, everybody was getting ready. We are supposed to leave for Russia, Moscow, a day after. Mukherjee called me up and said that there's no point of going there because the main witness whom you mentioned, Kolesnikov, he had been sent by Russian government as a diplomat to serve the diplomatic service in Ankara, Turkey. So it's a big conspiracy and big plan. And Mukherjee was very much disappointed. And while coming back also, he said that I don't have anything to write here because we didn't get the main witness. As a result, everything has become hearsay. That was another tragedy. But even then I mentioned it in my book, that let us see that at least if this type of thing was done between Russia and India, now today is the time, let the two countries they stand together and exchange their views regarding what really happened. All of a sudden, the Discovery Channel started making film on it. They sent a boy from this Holland, Sadbhai. Somehow or other, Sadbhai met Kolesnikov in St. Petersburg, and he asked that, do you know Purabi Roy? He immediately agreed to the thing, and he answered everything in a positive manner. And then he stood before the camera also. And there only he answered that, like me, that today time has come that both the countries must decide, and it is the time for Russia and India to decide it, like Raoul Wallenberg of that Swedish diplomat who had been killed by the Soviets, and for 56 years they just negated the fact and they said that we don't know anything. Ultimately, Soviet had to answer under the pressure of the Swedish people. I had been in Sweden. I gave lecture in the Raoul Wallenberg Institute, this Uppsala University, Stockholm University, Lund University. People were listening everything and telling that it is so parallel case of Raoul Wallenberg. But what happened, Dr. Rai, that why can't you do it? I said, Sweden and India, two different things. Sweden is a small country, and India with such a big country with so many people and so many languages, it is very difficult to convince them. And on top of it, when Mukherjee Commission went there, the main witness had been removed from the Soviet territory. Mukherjee answered that he is dead, but he didn't die in the plane crash. It is the task of the present government to find out that when and where he died. This was the conclusive part of Mukherjee Commission, submitted on 2005 and immediately rejected by the government. When public started accepting it, the government rejected it. With this, that we do not, in the action taken report, without reading the report, without having a proper discussion in the parliament, hardly they have given few hours to discuss, and that is not worthwhile. Few members were there, and they have closed down the show. So that way, all the three commissions were fizzled out, and I think it's time to once more review the Mukherjee Commission's report, to bring it back. Though there are some legal difficulties are there, but even then one can find some other way to bring it back, to reconsider it, to again to review it, and to find certain conclusive answers from Justice Mukherjee.